Good evening, ladies and gents. We welcome you here to the 7th race of the 2nd season of the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. We've crossed the Atlantic Ocean. We are now over on the other side of the world here in Japan as we get ready for our 7th race. It's another 1.5-mile track, and it is the Twin Ring Motegi Speedway. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Matthew Rodriguez. And Matt, the big story obviously coming out of last week at Phoenix was the defending champion Nick DeGroot going to victory lane. He's the defending winner at this track a year ago, so is the champ finally starting to get his bearings back to try and defend his title?
I'm going to tell you, everyone in this field has to be asking that one question: is Nick DeGroot back? Last season, 5 wins. Obviously came out champion, but if Nick isn't back, you got to wonder if he's lost his mojo a little bit, or he's finally got a handle under these cars. This race will really be the decider, since he has won here before. He has dominated here before.
Now, another driver that we got to talk about of whether or not they've lost their mojo would have to be Robert Maliska III. You're going to notice as we show you your starting grid, he is not up here inside of the top 5 where we're used to seeing him. Of course, a 5-time pole sitter this season. Last week was the first time that he had not qualified on the pole, as Eric Shouse took the Phoenix pole position, and Meliska gave it a shot. He was fastest in practice, and he gave it a shot trying to put down a lap time in the closing seconds of qualifying, but could not make it back to the line, and thusly going to be starting outside of the top 20. And so going to be a bit of a challenge, I think, for this guy to try and make his way through traffic. And why that kind of, I think, is important is back at, I believe it was Atlanta a couple of weeks ago, he ended up coming down pit road, gave up a lot of track position to come down pit lane, take on tires, and got caught up in a wreck. So he's going to have to tiptoe his way through the field early on, I think.
Yeah, I heard him getting out late in qualifying was almost like a team issue where they just couldn't get out early enough. But you got to be thinking that question in the back of his head: am I falling off? Did my early season dominance kind of wear off? Is these guys getting kind of their legs under them, getting going? It's the same thing. This race will kind of give you that almost a bookmark, trying to tell you where you are for the rest of your season.
Alex Van Desant going to be on the pole position. His first pole on the year. Desant 6th in the standings coming to this one, 71 points out. And obviously looking for his first win on the year as well. And he's going to be starting alongside of that very familiar number 99, Matt Wagner, who is trying to join Robert Maliska III as the only multi-time winners this season. Of course, winning the season opener at Auto Club. 120 laps here tonight, here in Suzuka, Japan, as the green flag is in the air. We're underway. We almost were 3 wide already at the start-finish line.
Yeah, big chaos there in the back. Almost everyone's shuffling for position, just trying to find their preferred line. Now, Seth, we talked about it, at least in qualifying. All these guys are able to take 1 and 2 all flat out. 3 and 4, though, that's where it gets a bit entertaining because you kind of have to hit the brakes to make it into this corner. So it's going to be almost a bravery test of these guys just sending it in.
Oh, it already got a spinner. That is Charles Johnson in the 14 back there in turn 3.
4 cars involved, almost 5 there. Don't know
Another
who just
car upside down. Is that Charles Teed, I believe, in the 5? Yeah, he was up on his side. Might have been up on his roof. It's been a tough couple of weeks for our Iowa winner. And there's Covey Moore in the 15, a driver who's actually been picking up spots in the standings. Gained 5 spots last week at Phoenix to jump up to 11th. And you can clearly see the suspension problems on that car as he is literally, I don't know what you call that, drifting down pit road?
Crab walking, I think, is more like it.
Crab walking, yes, that's exactly what it would be.
It definitely looks like all this kicked off with Charles and Dylan here, the 14 and the 30.
Let's see if we can find out exactly what happened. Charles Johnson actually was putting down some good lap times in practice as well. I kind of looked at him to maybe be one of our dark horse drivers, no pun intended, here tonight. And unfortunately for him, caught up in an early incident here it was. And I believe that the car that dives to the inside of him, it's that the 3, I believe, of Dylan Moskowitz. Yes, it was.
It almost just looked like a miscalculation. See, that's been the biggest thing. Is it looked like Moskowitz was just kind of digging for as much room as he could, just getting close to that white line, pushed up just a little bit, or maybe the 14 came down, and fortune met in the middle. Now, that kicked off the second stint behind them with Teed and the others.
Yeah, we're going to see here Charles Teed and Covey Moore. Teed's going to be the blue and neon yellow car. Ahead of him, the silverish gray car on the inside line is Covey Moore. They're going to make the contact here in the follow-up wreck. Both get sent up hard into the wall. There was another car there as well. Couldn't tell if that might have been the 32 of Jeffrey Duncan. There's another car collected there. I think that was the 7 of Gary Corley. So you had pretty much 2 drivers involved in the initial incident and about 6-7 other drivers that got caught up in the follow-up. And again, these are a number of drivers that have been running well in the point standings as well. And for Covey Moore, he didn't even make it past lap 3, and already the 15 car looks like he's going to be in the garage area.
That is a tough break.
So Covey, who gained 5 spots last week, will probably lose spots this week heading into next week's race at Circuit of the Americas. Robert Maliska III, however, remember he started, I think it was 22nd, 23rd on the grid. He picked up 12 spots in all of that chaos up to 11th place, so at least check off a little bit of one of his goals early on. That was avoid the early chaos. But going back to that incident we had over there in turn 3, I mean, these drivers just came off last week at Phoenix, and we know that Phoenix has those heavy braking zones as well. We had a couple of cases of drivers nearly running each other over, and then, of course, the contact there with Moskowitz and Charles Johnson. You would kind of think that Phoenix would have given these drivers a little bit of an idea of how to approach a braking zone area like turn 3 here.
Seth, the name has Twin Ring Motegi Super Speedway here. And as even it has Super Speedway in the name, but it's not like that typical Super Speedway look. 1 and 2 gives you that false confidence of, oh yeah, I can hold this wide open. Getting the 3, everyone has a different entry. And you'll notice later in the race, that entry is going to start getting smaller and smaller and smaller, where we're going to have more of these instances of these guys trying to push the issue of, hey, I'm faster than you. I've got better tires than you. I think I can dive it just a little bit deeper. And that's where we're going to see a lot of the conflicts.
So lights out atop the pace truck. We will go back green this time. Pacing laps, fortunately, here doesn't look like they're going to take all that long, as it is only a little over a mile and a half in length here at Twin Ring Motegi. It'll be Desant the leader, Wagner second, Eric Peterson will be third, Eric Shouse, who is 5th in points, he will line up in 4th place, and Victor Santos, the runner-up in the standings, 42 points behind Robert Maliska III. He'll complete the top 5 as the green flag back in the air. You see him snaking down the front straightaway. Van Desant does not want Matt Wagner to get a toe on him down this back straightaway to be able to get a run to 3.
Just looking here back at the field, looks like everyone got a good start, but there was a stack up, it looks like, past the top 10.
And I said that Covey Moore was out of the race. He did disconnect from the server, but he has actually returned back into the server and back onto the racetrack, only 1 lap down. So all 27 drivers that took the green to start this race still in it, as now Shouse going to dive to the inside. Actually, correction, that's Peterson diving to the inside to take 3rd position back from Eric Shouse.
Eric Shouse has had a pretty good season thus far. It just hasn't really been making it up there to the winner's circle, but he looks like the 12 actually hit the wall out of 4.
Josh Garner, and we're going to have to follow up on that as well, because one thing that we heard in pre-drivers meeting that we haven't heard as much at other tracks, and that is aero push is going to come into play in this one, and that's why we're probably going to see a lot of drivers really pushing up in the corner and getting that outside wall. And again, you know, we touch on this every time we're at a speedway, but the suspension for these cars are completely exposed, and so you go up there and you make contact, it is going to affect the way your car runs for the rest of that particular stint in between potential cautions, in between pit stops. And Matt Wagner, he's trying to make a second line work here. He got alongside of Alex Van Desant for the race lead, tries to get the toe again down the back straightaway.
And that's the thing, the bottom line is going to be king here. Obviously, those higher lines will work if you have help or draft. Main thing, these cars are just so aero dependent, like you were saying. Any bit of damage can easily hurt your chances.
Right now, Wagner holding down second. Victor Santos back in fifth and got dropped back to eighth and ninth. There you see the defending champion, Nick DeGroot. And behind him is the 91 two-time winner, Robert Maliska III, currently holding down the ninth position. I mean, right now, we're starting to get an idea of drivers that we would expect heading into the season finale that would be battling for the championship. But in the case of DeGroot, he had a rather slow start in the first 5 races. Maliska III ran into an issue last week, and so it doesn't seem like anybody has really been able to dodge a bullet so far in the first 6 races of the season. And don't forget, Matt, they extended the season this year. Last year, they ran, I believe it was a total of 12 races for the season. This year, they're running 18 races. So with those extra 6 races on the schedule, it's more opportunity for a driver to run into trouble with the championship on the line.
Yeah, DeGroot managed to win the championship with only 10 races on the schedule, and he won half the season. So obviously adding more races, that's going to make it a little bit more difficult. As I'm looking through the standings here, a guy who really needs to have a good day and didn't have a great day at Phoenix last week would be Craig Forsyth, and unfortunately he's running 23rd here at the moment. Lost 4 positions last week, dropped from 4th in the standings all the way to 8th.
Forsyth, of course, finished out last year with a victory in the Indianapolis 500, and yeah, this is a guy that was looking like he was very much so going to be a player up towards the top of the point standings, but to your point, got involved in not 1 but 2 wrecks last week and ended up DNFing in that one, dropping several spots in the stands. Another driver that also needs a good run, and I'm hoping I'm not jinxing him because I've said this the last couple of weeks when he's running well and he is getting caught up in an incident, and that is Eric Peterson in the 36. I mean, Peterson coming into this season, he's run all 6 races so far, but 27th in the point standings. A big reason for that is a lot of his finishes have been down outside of the top 20, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's drivers that finish outside of the top 25 that get, I think it's only 3 points for the race. And with Peterson finishing as far down week after week as he has, he's just not been able to accumulate points to gain positions in the standings.
Man, you just kind of, when you're down in that hole, you just kind of have to remind yourself that, hey, it's still race 6 of 18. All it needs is a little bit of momentum, go on a tear. You can be right back up there fighting for the championship.
Victor Santos, he's been working his way through the field, started 12th, up 7 spots in the 5th position, and hounding Eric Shouse for 4th. And we talked with Victor a couple of weeks ago as well after a top 3 finish, and I said to him, and I still believe, I don't think it's going to be very...
back there. Someone's flipping. 14.
Charles Johnson, second incident he's been involved in today as he flips right to the start-finish line. That could be his race over. Remember, these drivers only have 1 fast repair at their disposal, and Johnson was involved in the incident back on lap 1 over in turn 3.
Oh, Seth. Looks like he made that textbook error, and that's exactly what we talked about. He pushed the envelope coming out of 3 and 4.
Well, look who he's behind. That's Dylan Moskowitz, the guy that he got into, or that he got into him earlier. I don't know if maybe he was trying to get up there and battle with the 3 and may have lost focus of just how much speed he was carrying off of turn 4, but that is some hard impact. And fortunately, Motegi's got about a 5-6 groove front straightaway, so everybody was able to avoid that flipping and barrel rolling 14.
Just very unfortunate of how it happened. Taking a look at it, he about entered with the same speed that the 3 did in front of him. Just he was entering on a higher lane. Entering 3, not on the white line like the 3 was. So I think he was just trying to push it a little bit too much too early, just tag the wall. I mean, you saw that right part of the wall just has so many marks already in lap 14.
Wild ride there for Charles Johnson, as I assumed, that's his second incident. I believe he used his only fast repair back during the first caution, and this one will officially take him out of the race. So tough break there for him, as he'll officially be the first retiree out of today's event. And no surprise that we saw most of our race leaders come down pit road. We were told the fuel window for these drivers about 30 to 32 laps. We were right in the middle of a fuel stint for these drivers, so looks like 4 drivers elected to stay out here under this caution. Matt Wagner has not pitted its entire race so far. Charles Teed, Gary Corley, and Craig Forsyth, they were all down on pit road on the first caution. And then Van Desant, who was the first one down pit road, will restart in the 5th position. And one thing that I remember, not necessarily with the Indy cars, but with other cars that we've seen here at Motegi is deceptively a tire killer. I mean, you notice right there with that shot, there's not a whole lot of progressive banking for the car to be able to lean into going into the corner, so it really puts a lot of pressure on that right front, hence why we've seen the aero push and cars get into the wall early on in this race. I'm not so certain. Do you see a possible disadvantage speed-wise with 17-lap old tires for Matt Wagner as opposed to the fresh rubber behind him?
Easily if he's been pushing it. If you've been saving your stuff, saving your tires, not attacking, which he slightly has been attacking, you could save that right front tire a little bit, and right under these pace laps, you can try and cool it down here and like, hey, I mean, don't weave, just take it nice and easy.
We mentioned the fact that this is the second time that the Dark Horse IndyCar Series has been here at Twin Ring Motegi, and the defending winner of this race was Nick DeGroot. However, there were some other drivers that had some solid outings here 1 year ago as well. Eric Shouse, who we've seen up here in the top 5 since the start of this race, he was the runner-up in that event. Covey Moore, he, of course, got involved in that incident earlier on and just got the free pass because of this caution. He was 3rd, AJ Hobson was 4th, and Craig Forsyth was 5th. So you have to wonder if the success that drivers had last year, if that rolls over to this year, or if they're dealing with an entirely different track.
We've got to remember, all of these tracks are never the exact same, just changing weather conditions, different temperatures, even the position of the sun that can affect how these cars drive. So obviously the fundamentals are still there of how you run the track, but different conditions will make you either run it just a little bit harder or just a little bit more conservative.
Groot right now is in the 10th position, and he did not qualify up at the front this week like he did last season. He started 2nd in last year's Motegi race, going on to win that one, leading a race-high 95 laps. We're still yet to see him get up to the front in this one. But then if you kind of go back to Phoenix last week as well, Nick DeGroot really wasn't up there at the front in the first half of the race. Slowly, methodically made his way up there in the second half and then never looked back. So might be trying to take the same page out of the playbook for this race 1 week later, as we should be getting the 1 to green signal this time. It'll be Wagner, Teed, Corley, Forsyth, and Desant. That's the top 5. Eric Peterson 6th, Eric Shouse in 7th, Victor Santos, Robert Maliska, and Nick DeGroot. That is going to be the top 10. Looks like we're going to have 25 drivers on the lead lap of 26 that are still running. Josh Garner, you talked about him getting up into the wall during that last green flag run. He has fallen a lap down to the leaders, but he would get back on the lead lap if a caution were to come out and he were the only car 1 lap down. Obviously, he doesn't want to be the caution that would come out to put him on the lucky dog, though.
Absolutely. And I was going to mention this driver right before we had that incident with the 14 car. But Krista Nelson has been running surprisingly well today. I think she maybe dropped into the back of the pack. But she was running 13th right before the caution, and looking at her previous race results, last 6 races, no finish better than about 16th, 20th. So obviously trying to get your season back on track here.
Krista Nelson has kind of fallen into the same issue as what I was talking about earlier with Eric Peterson. Runs well up at the front, but then gets involved in unfortunate circumstances. I mean, she was running in 2nd place at Phoenix last week and then got hit from behind by a driver with fresher tires and subsequently finished down in the running order. So it's not as if she hasn't had the speed to be competitive, just the luck has not been a factor that has helped her out. And she actually did run this race 1 year ago, also finishing 20th out of 22 drivers. So looking to improve on that here as Wagner gets us back underway. Teed in 2nd. The battle right now going to be for that 3rd position between Gary Corley and Craig Forsyth.
Corley did not get a good restart. He almost got caught sleeping there, and right now Forsyth is all over him.
And look at this battle back here with Peterson, Shouse, and Santos. They all took it nearly 4 wide with Van Desant down the back straightaway. These guys are not waiting for anything. They know they got the fresh tires, and they're trying to cut back up into the top 5.
Gotta remember, too, these guys are teammates. You don't want to wreck your teammate here.
Peterson and Shouse. Now it's going to be Santos trying to swing on the outside of Shouse. That would be for the 6th position. Here comes Robert Maliska the 3rd in the 91. He's going to enter into this party. 5 drivers, throw a blanket over them from 7th, or make that 6th on back to 9th.
And Wagner's, oh wow, we're going almost 4 wide in the front straightaway.
They are slicing and dicing out of 4, giving me
Oh.
hang on to it. That's Shouse. Boy, I guess there's no grip in that third line.
Maybe no progressive banking, but man, there's definitely a lot of room to catch it.
My goodness, tremendous save there by Eric Shouse, and I gotta wonder if it's just the fact that there was no rubber laid up in that third groove, if it's the cold tires that he just took on. Wonder what played a factor into that. You know, when we ended up hearing from drivers pre-race, the only time that drivers were expected to really feel a lightness in the race car was near the end of a green flag run with about maybe 3 gallons left in the tank. That's when the loose sensation, the lightness in the back was going to start to kick in. It seemed a little early for something like that to happen for Eric Shouse. Is now Nick DeGroot going to go to the inside of Alex Van Desant. That is for 8th place. But how about Matt Wagner and Charles? Oh, we got a spinner in the back. That's Paul Jennings in the 74. He got hooked by somebody off of turn 4. Couldn't tell who.
Taking a look here.
Or if Joe McAdory is slow leaving the scene as well, might have been him that hooked the 74.
I think Moskowitz may have gotten just tagged in another one.
Yep, I think you're right. There it was through 3 and 4. Moskowitz on the bottom. Jennings on the top. Oh, yeah, well.
It wasn't even of his own cause.
He held his own line. It was another case of a driver going up into the wall off of turn 4, and then Jennings just comes down across and literally takes the nose off of the 3 car.
I mean, you got to be wondering from the onboard of the 3. I mean, he's not expecting a car to come right across his nose from the high lane.
Yeah, in that situation, there's nothing Moskowitz can do. I mean, until that car comes off the wall, I don't even think he was noticing if the 74 was going to be able to make the corner or not. He was probably more concentrated on whether he was going to make it off the corner. As we're going to take that on board with the 3 of Dylan Moskowitz, and you'll see there's just kind of a blind spot there too. If you look at where the rearview mirror is, that's kind of where the 74 is, and next thing you know, there he is, right in front of your windshield.
And definitely looks like he may have broken a little bit of suspension there. No, he's just been given an EOL.
Dylan Moskowitz, of course, running a part-time schedule. It appears that he is only running the speedways this season. And he has had some good races, and he's had some not so good races. And because of that, he finds himself 9th in the point standings, currently coming into tonight's race as Matt Wagner now hits pit road. Looks like Krista Nelson is coming down. Alex Van Desant, AJ Musselman all coming down pit road. That's going to turn the race lead over to Gary Corley, who you touched on that last restart did not get the best of jumps, and so hopefully for his and the rest of the field's sake, he's going to be able to nail down the throttle this time when he leads him back to green.
I will say, I think Matt may have shown his cards here just a little bit early because we saw what he was able to do on those old tires.
Eric Peterson, Robert Meliska III, Victor Santos, Nick DeGroot going to be the top 5. And yeah, I think that's a great point because obviously these drivers are going to use the first 60, maybe 80 laps to do some experimentation, figure out what they're able to do on old tires, fresh tires, anything like that, strategy-wise. And I think that there are a lot of drivers that definitely took notice of the fact that Matt Wagner was able to open up that much of a gap, hold off Charles Teed, but that was with 17-lap older tires. So I think you're going to have a lot of drivers that are going to kind of weigh the pros and cons of, do I want to give up the track position to come down and get tires? Well, Matt Wagner, it worked out for him, so probably not.
You've got to ask that question. It's easy to say what you do right now. Hey, I want track position. I'd stay out. 5 laps left to go in the race. And I mean, I'm thinking about those new tires a little bit.
Saw moments ago, 12 of Josh Gardner going around to get the lucky dog under this yellow flag. And so all 26 drivers that are still in the race, they will, that were running, I should say, that are still in the race will be on the lead lap. Charles Johnson still the only driver that is out of today's event. Looks like the lights are on atop the pace cars still. And so we'll step aside for a quick commercial break. We'll be back here for the green flag here at Twin Ring Motegi in the Dark Horse IndyCar Series.
It's a road few dare to travel, a journey filled with danger and unpredictability. So why do we traverse this road? Why do we take such a gamble? Because if we don't try, we'll never know what we could have achieved. That's why we strap in, rev up, and fix our focus on the ultimate prize. Because the reward is well worth the risk. The 2021 Nnscra Daytona 500, Saturday, February 20th, exclusively on Flatout Racing Network.
ETE Reman is the world's best remanufacturer of transmissions for import and domestic cars and trucks. Based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, our customers are repair shops, auto parts stores, dealerships, and distributors. And with 6 nationwide warehouses, we're where and when you need us. So when you're looking for a transmission that is like new, only better, instill confidence and install ETE Reman.
It's a
Getting ready to go back green flag racing here at Twin Ring Motegi. Gary Corley going to be leading them back to green over Eric Peterson, Robert Maliska III, Victor Santos, and Nick DeGroot. Jim Herrick now up in 6th with Oscar Gonzalez 7th. AJ Hobson, Krista Nelson, and Jimmy Drynan complete the top 10 as we are now going to enter a quarter of the way through this race next time by.
And just looking at always a second place guy or third place guy just doesn't get it going. Almost they try to anticipate or jump the restart or get caught sleeping.
Robert Maliska III, he was on it. He's going to pick up a couple of spots up to the second position, but now Santos, wow, talk about a slide job there through 3 and 4. Lets it right up off the corner, does not hit the wall, and almost some contact between the two down the front straightaway. These aren't stock cars, boys. These are open wheel machines. You can't bump like each other like that.
Yeah, I don't know if he was too pleased about that move. I'm hearing over chat.
The moment they settle it out, but then Santos comes back up to the top, and now Nick DeGroot, last week's winner, he's going to enter into this mix. And when we talked to DeGroot in Victory Lane last week at Phoenix, he was very excited about coming in to Motegi, of course, being the defending winner. And another driver that may have brushed the wall, didn't look like he hit it, but looks like he may have brushed it, was Eric Peterson in the 5th position. But he was able to gather it back up, had a gap between himself and Jim Herrick, so for the moment, looks like he's okay.
Man, Victor is seeing Gary, and he is just trying to go for him. Robert and Nick right back there, they're trying to take a little bit more of a conservative route, but they're trying to fend off Santos here just a little bit.
Still remaining side by side, and you have to wonder how patient Nick DeGroot is going to be here. I don't know if he would force the issue 3 wide. Certainly I would advise against it because we had our hearts in our throat when they were 4 wide on the front straightaway there. DeGroot having to pretty much draft with one of these two drivers to push them on by, then he can move by and focus on whoever ends up coming away with second place, which right now looks like it may be the 24, but now Maliska's going to cross him over going to turn 1.
And you got to think back to where DeGroot's going to go here. Hey, is DeGroot going to help the 24 and kind of stay with him, or is he going to jump down and join the 91 of Maliska?
And you know who's loving this right now has to be that 7 of Gary Corley, but you touched on this just before we came back from the commercial break. He's been out there now for 29 laps, so he's got to be thinking about having to come to pit road somewhere in the next 5 to 7 laps, even with what he might have been able to save under these pacing laps.
Easily, I will say the question going in later in the race. Right now, he's running about 30-lap-old tires. Now, that's worked twice with both Wagner and Corley for being the leader. The question I have is, hey, if I'm in 2nd, 3rd, or 4th, and I have old tires, can I still make a move, or am I going to have a little bit degraded performance there?
Here's the thing that, going back to that point you just made, that I've been noticing here. We saw Matt Wagner on old tires was able to pull away for the race lead. He's now got 4 fresh tires. Oh, we got a wreck. Yeah, there's about 2 or 3 cars in trouble back there. Hovey Moore, Gail Brooks, Josh Garner is up in that area. There is the 12. So he was definitely involved. and I
Moskowitz
think-
again.
Oh, man, that 3 cannot catch a break, and that might be his day done.
Man, I'd get out of here, Ed. That thing's cursed.
Moskowitz finished 7th here a year ago, so he had good numbers coming into tonight, but 35 laps in, and he is 3 for 4 in being involved in incidents here tonight at Motegi.
Yikes, that thing is cursed.
Was this
tonight.
turn 4 again?
It looks like it's
but
turn 4.
yeah, and
Disagreement on some space here.
it happened up ahead of him, though. He got caught up in a wreck after it had already happened, as did the 12 of Josh Garner.
Looks like Brooks may have given Moore just a little bit of assistance.
Jim Brooks in the 76, the orange and purple car. Covey Moore on the bottom, and yeah, Boy, 76 pinched him down, and nothing Gail Brooks could do. She tried to get on the brakes there, and boy, Dylan Moskowitz, wild ride there as all 4 tires left the racing surface. He almost entered pit road illegally.
I'm looking at Paul Jennings here. I'm watching his onboard. He made an amazing avoidance at 170. That is some reaction time right there.
And that could have very well saved his chances of finishing this race, as he was involved in an incident earlier on and may have already utilized his faster pair on board with the 74 car. There's the smoke up ahead, and holy cow, you're right. And the thing I love, not a whole lot of hand movement. He kind of let that car gradually turn down to be able to make the move, and then there was a little bit of the jerking of the wheel back to the right to correct it back, but you didn't really see any panic in the hand movement on the steering wheel at all.
I'm going to tell you, there may not have been panic on the wheel, but there is panic in the mind.
Yes. Boy, great job there for Paul Jennings. Is now Dylan Moskowitz having to teleport to pit road. We also have another driver that's on pit lane for what looks like could be a lengthy stop, and that would be the 33 of Nicholas Winook. Now, he's already lost a lap, and looks like he's still sitting on pit road. I don't know if he was involved in an incident or if he may have come down pit road under green flag conditions, but certainly this is going to drop him, if not 1, possibly 2 laps down before we get back green.
Trying to look here. Didn't see anything too terrible happen.
We'll have to see if we can follow up on why the 33 is on pit road. He's still there, and the race leader, Nick DeGroot, is now going to cross the line, so he will go at least 2 laps down. So it looks like Nick DeGroot, Jim Herrick, AJ Hobson, Jeremy Drynan, and Matt Wagner. That's going to be the top 5 when we go back green. And this is now going to be interesting because an MO that Nick DeGroot had last season and in a lot of other leagues that I've seen him drive Indy cars is once he gets to the front, he controls the restarts and he's impossible to catch. Now that he has finally made his way up to the front, we're going to have to see if that's going to be the case here. If he's going to be able to hold that top position, not allow anybody by, or if possible, pit strategy is going to put him back in the field again. DeGroot started this race from the 8th position and now finds himself up in P1, looking for back-to-back victories. Robert Maliska III, the only driver that has had multiple wins this season, also had his victories in back-to-back races. And as we mentioned with DeGroot, the slow start to the year, he comes into this race currently 4th in the standings, but even with his win last week, he's still 58 points behind Robert Maliska III. So still a lot of time in the season to be able to chip away, but it's not going to be one of those cases where you can cut in by huge margins week after week, because you know the 91 is going to try and keep the one car within striking distance as DeGroot gets us back under the green. Battle's going to be for 3rd. AJ Hobson in the 63 under fire from the 94 of Jimmy Drynan. Hobson on the bottom, Drynan on the top. Behind them, you've got Matt Wagner and Charles Teed, a couple of former winners from earlier on this year. Teed winning at Iowa, and Wagner winning the season opener at Auto Club. Nicholas Winook is still on pit road. Now 4 laps down, Dylan Moskowitz on pit road, 5 laps down. So at this point in time, both those drivers may have made an early exit from winning this race, as still side-by-side for third, side-by-side for fifth, and then a gaggle of cars behind them. Krista Nelson, Eric Shouse, AJ Musselman, and others.
And look at Nelson. We were talking about her early in the race, running about 15th. Worked her way up to 7th here.
Looking in the rearview mirror, sees Eric Shouse, looks up ahead and sees 2 rows of 2-wide racing with Drynan, Hobson, Teed, and Wagner. And the thing that makes me nervous about this is not how close they're racing down the straightaways, but as we've seen already here today, the racing in close proximity. If someone makes a mistake off turn 4, just as I was saying that, Hobson clobbered the wall. All 4 tires left the racing surface. He continues on, but that thing is killed.
That's almost what I was going to talk about, is just spatial awareness. Hey, you're racing guys above you, you're racing guys behind you. You may not pay attention to the wall, but it's quickly coming towards you.
He's going to make it down onto the apron, but there you can see the suspension issues after he nailed that outside wall off of 4. No caution coming out, as he did not spin and was able to keep that thing pointed in the right direction. And, well, not quite pointed in the right direction, as that car is very much skewed off to the left down the back straightaway. DeGroot now has some company, though. Jim Herrick has been able to reel the 1 car in. Jim Herrick has been one of those drivers that also seems to go outside the box in terms of pit strategy. It gains him track position, and right now, that 57 looks like he's fast enough to get up here and battle for the race lead with DeGroot.
And you got to think of DeGroot here, and DeGroot's trying to say, hey, is it worth it for me to burn my stuff here and try to get a little bit ahead of him, make sure he doesn't catch my draft? Or, hey, should I stay behind him and kind of save some fuel here?
And you also got to wonder here about Nick DeGroot and Jim Herrick, as well as Krista Nelson, because these drivers are out there on their 27th lap on this stint. Again, drivers that are close to that window of how far they can possibly make it.
4 got turned on the front straightaway.
Oh my goodness! Victor Santos cartwheeling in between the concrete barriers that separate pit road from the racetrack. Looks like he and David Leclerc in the 50 might have been the 2 that got together in this one.
And I heard immediately after Bet 24 hit the wall, I'm done.
Take
Looks
a
like
look
the
at this.
50
This
is
was
done as well.
This was 3 wide into turns 3 and 4. We talked about how technical those 2 particular corners were going to be here tonight, how you're going to have to rely on braking zones and, of course, not have that aero tightness off the corner. The car on the top side of this 3 wide, I believe, is our pole sitter, Van Desant. And here it was. You saw that the 63 of, no, it's the 94, I think, of Jimmy Drynan, who was out there on old tires. He had to really lift through the center of the corner. That stacked everybody up, and there you see the end result.
Ooh, my heart goes out for David Leclerc. Wrong place, wrong time. He was trying to make a move on the high side, and I mean, nowhere to go. There's no warning.
That's been the story of his season. I mean, despite the fact he finished 3rd last week at Phoenix, it's just been a case of wrong place, wrong time for David Leclerc. He has struggled at the D-shaped mile and a halfs. He struggled here today as well, getting involved in this early incidents. Like that 50 car just does not seem to be able to catch a break, and that's been something that a lot of drivers have had here in the early portions of the season.
And that's been the issue. His standings, his results, they just don't represent what he's been able to pull off.
That is a scary wreck there for Victor Santos. That car was, as I said, right in between those 2 concrete walls as he was flipping and barrel rolling. He did get sent back out onto the racing surface, but fortunately everyone was able to avoid him. But, I mean, Matt, we're not even halfway through this race, and there's at least a half dozen drivers that are still running this field, maybe even a dozen, if you think about it, that have already used their fast repair.
You got to think the guys who have it, they're counting their blessings. Like, man, I've got 1 fast repair at the bank. I've heard this from a few drivers that I've had the pleasure of racing with, where if I use their fast repair, man, I just got by on the skin of my teeth. I really don't want to use it. And the guys who never use their fast repair and end up finishing the race with one left, they always say, man, I could have pushed the envelope that much more.
Eric Shouse, who was the pole sitter last week at Phoenix, is now out in front for the first time here tonight. Of course, as we mentioned, Eric is trying what he can to reel in the points gap between himself and Robert Maliska III. Shouse right now 5th in the standings, 59 points out. Think of it, too. You hear those numbers, 42 out for Santos, 50 out for Wagner, 58 for DeGroot, 59 for Shouse. Those sound like huge numbers if you're thinking to the NASCAR Cup Series points with 1 point per position, but that's not how the IndyCar points work. So, one bad day for a points leader could end up not only dropping him down, giving drivers a striking distance of him into the following week, it could very well lose him the points lead.
I'd rather have a sub 15 place day rather than a DNF. That's all I'd say.
So David Leclerc, as you documented, out of the race right now. Looks like he would be finishing in the 24th position. Unless Nicholas Winook and Dylan Moskowitz can get back out there, they would then drop him down to 26th. AJ Hobson, who we saw clobber the wall there on that last run, he's lost 2 laps, as has Victor Santos after he had to teleport back to pit road after his wild ride. They're 22nd and 23rd. We'll have 21 drivers on the lead lap of 23 that are running on the track currently that will be on the lead lap. It's Shouse, Meliska, Corley, Gonzalez, and Peterson. How about Oscar Gonzalez, a driver that finished runner-up back at, I believe it was Texas, to his teammate Pablo Francis. Not exactly had the best of seasons overall, but he is 13th in points and has crept his way up here into the top 5. Might be a driver to watch in the second half of this race.
You just got to remember, he finished runner-up on both Atlanta and Iowa. So, man's hungry for a win.
And he's going to have Peterson behind him. Nick DeGroot is going to be in 6th after he did come to pit road. Jim Herrick in 7th, Matt Wagner, Krista Nelson, and Charles Teed going to complete the top 10. A couple of drivers that I fully expected to see up here towards the front that we really haven't seen up here very often. Pole sitter Alex Van Desant. He was out in front to start this race, and then he kind of faded back. He's back in the 12th position. And Craig Forsyth, we saw he started towards the rear of the field, and he really hasn't made any urgent charge to the front. Right now, riding back in the 14th position. So we'll have to see if those two, I don't know if they're saving, if they just don't really have the speed right now to be able to get up there, or if they're just in self-preservation right now, trying to make sure that they have that fast repair when we get into the second half of this race.
Well, you got to remember, a lot of these guys, every day can't be your day, unfortunately, as many of these drivers would love it to be. But it's, managing those bad days. You may not be having the best day. Craig Forsyth probably isn't having the best day right now, but he's doing a great job at managing that bad day and seeing if he can turn it around into something great.
Now, so far, we ended up having a number of drivers that came into this race within striking distance of Robert Maliska III for that points lead, and a couple of them have run into some issues here tonight. We just saw Victor Santos, 2nd in points, get involved in that wreck. Dylan Moskowitz, 9th in the standings, has been involved in multiple wrecks here this evening. Right now, 15 laps down in 26th. So we've noticed as well on the schedule, a lot of these speedways, there's some road courses peppered here and there, but it is about 2/3 speedways on the schedule. And the speedways have definitely shown that they are what we would consider point shakers.
Man, I'm seeing Matt Wagner slowly work his way back up through the field. He's coming.
Wagner looking ahead to Nick DeGroot. Eric Peterson just up ahead as well. That is a battle for a spot inside of the top 5 at the front. Battle for the lead. It is on. You've got the 91 of Robert Maliska III. He has reeled in the draft of Eric Shouse, and this is reminding me an awful lot of the battle that these two had back last week at Phoenix.
You gotta remember, Shouse is taking a risk here. He's on 25 lap old tires, same fuel. So you got to be wondering, what's the plan here? He's hoping for a quick caution here in about the next 5-10 laps to hopefully keep on with his strategy.
Boy, that was close right there off of turn 4. As you saw, the 91 pushing up just a little off the bottom. Had enough room, though, to be able to make it work. Shouse giving him enough real estate to be able to not make contact between the two of them. But Shouse not going away quietly. It looked like Maliska had him cleared through the center of 1 and 2, but now back alongside comes Eric Shouse in that 72 machine. But with those older tires, I'm not really sure how much he's going to be able to do. And I think that's going to be the running thing here tonight as well, Matt, with the fact that old tires versus new, it's going to be 3 and 4 where you're going to see the difference between between the tires of different drivers.
Definitely. It will tell you how much you've abused that right front and how much that right front has left to give you. You're seeing the 24 of Victor Santos coming back onto the track. I believe he had to serve a black flag.
5 laps down is where he's going to currently be scored, and obviously with every lap that ticks away, there goes his chances of finishing up there towards the front. He would have to rely on a number of lucky dogs, as right now it looks like he would have to have 7 cautions come out between now and then and have nobody else go a lap down, because AJ Hobson is -2, Santos currently -5. Battle right now, though, really good one going on between Oscar Gonzalez in the 11 and the 36 of Eric Peterson. Those two were nose to tail for a brief moment. Peterson lost a little ground through 3 and 4.
I'm just looking here. It's shocking. Just running a little bit different of a line can take away just a fraction of a second, but that fraction of a second can help someone get your draft, get a better line, even get around you.
So far, we have not had a driver have to make green flag pit stops. A lot of drivers that have been close to the window have been saved by cautions, but this may be the most spread out we've seen the field so far since we dropped the green flag to start this thing. So looking at that 72 of Eric Shouse, who has been out there for 31 laps on his set of tires, he could very well have the distinction, if you will, of being the first one to have to test out what the car feels like coming onto pit road under green flag conditions.
One guy that I've seen has started to slice his way up through the field has to be Charles Teed here. Made a very bold 3-wide pass just a lap earlier, and he's currently working his way up into the top 10 here.
We know about that Charles Teed winning at Iowa, knows how to get it done at the tracks with the heavy braking zone. So we're going to actually watch him down here through 3 and 4 and see if this might be an area where he's making up a lot of his time as he's trying to reel in Krista Nelson for the 10th position. You see him let it ride up about a groove off the bottom. Lets it also ride up off of turn 4, trying to get that straightaway speed. And he gained maybe about a half a car length there on that straightaway alone between himself and the 13 car.
And I'm looking up here in top 5. DeGroot's right now battling Oscar Gonzalez, but I'm watching how DeGroot's running 1 and 2, even 3 and 4. He's getting right down to that white line where you can just see the back end just wiggle just a little bit. I mean, he's pushing it right here, but I'm thinking he's seeing that 91 of Robert Maliska up here leading the race, and he's thinking points. I need to make up some ground here.
Well, not only that, but different drivers are on different tire sequences. Right now, Meliska the third has been out there for 24 laps, but right now the battle for the potential race lead, when certain drivers have to come to pit road, would be going on here between the 1 of Nick DeGroot and the 99 of Matt Wagner. They were both on pit road 13 laps ago, so I think right now the two of them are trying to kind of size each other up to see who's going to inherit the lead if indeed we end up starting to get into a round of green flag pit stops.
I will say Nick DeGroot is playing that dangerous game of that white line where just a little lose your focus for just a second, that whole thing will come right around on you.
He is going to make the pass on Gary Corley there for 4th. Now going to try and go to work on Oscar Gonzalez for the 3rd position. Being back in traffic obviously is playing a factor into this, but Nick DeGroot is currently running the 3rd fastest lap times on the racetrack. Robert Maliska the 3rd out there on those old tires, he's running 27.1s to everybody's mid-27 2s, so something says to me that here today, that clean air is king in terms of having your car be fast.
Definitely. And Eric Shouse is kind of answering some of my questions that I've had right now about these older tires, where the older tires definitely are falling off a little bit more. I'm noticing Maliska is running about a 27.1 all by himself. Eric Shouse actually ran about a 27.3 by himself. So you're losing about 0.12 seconds here.
Now, another thing that we learned in drivers' meeting is that these drivers have an option in terms of green flag pit stops on their pit road entry. It's recommended that you pit starting on the apron of the entrance of turn 3, bring it down around the apron of 3 and 4, and then come to pit road. But drivers have been given the option, should they choose, to pit right out of turn 4. The thing that kind of worries me is the fact that these drivers are still all racing nose to tail, even though there is a little bit of space. Unless you've got clear communication to the driver behind you that you're going to be darting onto pit road late out of turn 4, you might run the risk you're going to get run over.
Realistically, that pretty much just begs the question, how brave are you? How brave are you, and how much time are you going to save by doing this? Versus how much time can you possibly lose by doing this?
I don't think it comes down to bravery. I think it comes down to big picture racing. You got to realize, yeah, I may gain a couple of spots if I end up pulling a really sneaky move and make a late entry onto pit road, but at the same time, if it doesn't pan out and I get involved in a wreck, that's a lot of points, a lot of positions I'm losing out, and we do have a wreck. It's Jimmy Drynan and Jim Brooks on the front straightaway, and again, in the vicinity of where drivers would have to start to think about making pit stops, a caution comes out to save them.
I don't know if... I don't know if Jimmy was coming in for a pit stop and maybe just missed the entry, or just got a little bit loose on the top end. But man, just got clobbered.
Let's see if we can find out. We're going to focus on the 94, who was trying to make a pass at the time, it looks like.
Yeah, it looks like he got a little bit of assistance from Paul there.
That's Paul Jennings, the 74. Yep, there is contact. He's trying to gather it up, The thing just comes around on him off of turn 4. Looked like he had that thing saved. I don't know if he hit a patch down there on the low side off of turn 4 that caused him to spin around, but it was right directly into the path of one Jim Brooks.
I'm going to tell you, Jim thought he had it saved. Watching his onboard, I mean, he was pretty confident that he was going to have that thing saved, and fortunately, the last minute, hooked on around, and you just hear Jim just slam on the brakes. Man, no time.
Yeah, no warning. I mean, you can see right there, 94 is slow, and then just that last little moment where the car snaps around. I mean, up until maybe a half second before the wreck, before the impact, you would have thought 76 was easily going to make it through that wreck, but tough break there for Jim Brooks, and that's another driver, if I'm not mistaken, in the case of the 76, that had already gotten involved in an incident here today. Subsequently had gotten damage. I don't know if he had used a fast repair or not, but another driver that may have a question mark above him of whether or not he's going to be able to continue on in this race.
There's only so many of those incidents where you can kind of avoid that happening, and Jim Brooks, another one of those guys who just have not had good luck this season.
Saw Jim finish out last year very well in the Indianapolis 500, but yeah, you're right. It's just not been the start to the season that he's been looking for. 20th in the point standings for Jim Brooks, and he was a top 10 finisher here 1 year ago, finishing in 10th place.
You definitely got to look and see some improvement. I mean, he started out the season at Auto Club, 30th place start, finished 16th. Last race at Phoenix, 6th place start, finished 11th. Obviously trying to turn his season around. He's got the momentum in the right direction. Definitely hoping to keep that momentum here.
So we're working our 6th caution of the evening. We are now past the halfway point. We should be going green somewhere in the vicinity, about 50 laps to go. Charles Teed is going to inherit the race lead. He was pretty much the only driver that stayed out here under this caution. Robert Maliska the third, lining up in second with Eric Shouse, Oscar Gonzalez, and Nick DeGroot, the top 5. And we saw Charles Teed pull this kind of strategy back at Iowa as well. Stayed out on those older tires, kept the track position, and was able to hold off the rest of the competition, kind of pull off a Matt Wagner from earlier on in this race.
I'm just looking throughout the field, and I'm trying to figure out who still has their fast repairs left. I mean, they've really plucked out who has the fast repairs in this field just through unfortunate accidents.
Looks like the driver that's going to get the lucky dog under this yellow might very well be the 63 of A.J. Hobson. Double check on that there. Looks like he is indeed the recipient of the lucky dog, so we'll have 21 drivers on the lead lap when we go back green flag racing. But that's going to be a little bit yet. Lights are still out atop the pace truck, so it looks like we will officially be going back green with 50 laps to go if the lights go out this next time. So we're going to step aside for another quick commercial break. We'll be back here after a moment. You won't miss a thing. We're going FRN side by side.
It's a road few dare to travel. A journey filled with danger and unpredictability. So why do we traverse this road? Why do we take such a gamble? Because if we don't try, we'll never know what we could have achieved. That's why we strap in, rev up, and fix our focus on the ultimate prize. Because the reward is well worth the risk. The 2021 Nnscra Daytona 500, Saturday, February 20th, exclusively on Flatout Racing Network.
ETE Reman is the world's best remanufacturer of transmissions for import and domestic cars and trucks. Based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, our customers are repair shops, auto parts stores, dealerships, and distributors. And with 6 nationwide warehouses, we're where and when you need us. So when you're looking for a transmission that is like new, only better, instill confidence and install ETE Reman.
Ace truck makes the left-hand turn to pit road. We're back green flag racing with 50 laps to go in the Covymore.com 150 at Twin Ring Motegi. Charles Teed gets us back underway. And Charles Teed, as we said, he ended up winning at the beginning of the season back at Iowa with pit strategy. We'll see if it will help him for his second win of the season. But here comes Eric Shouse and Robert Meliska III. They've got big runs down the back straightaway.
Maliska was all over Eric there. Obviously that's a man on a mission, but he sees the group behind him and knows, every point counts here.
Nick DeGroot behind them. He's about a half second back, and he's got his hands full with Oscar Gonzalez as now Maliska goes to the bottom on Eric Shouse, clears him off of turn 2. Shouse not going to go away quietly, tries to get the toe down the back straightaway. I thought he might jump to the outside. Instead, he crosses back down to the bottom into 3.
Everyone's about 2 by 2 back here in the pack. Everyone's kind of settling out here. Noticing Oscar Gonzalez mounting another charge in the Groot here.
One driver who finished podium here a year ago that I kind of wrote off early because he was involved in a wreck, and I thought he actually had DNF, but instead he had actually fallen out of the server. How about Covey Moore in the 15? Right now, on the lead lap, in the 11th position, and looking for more as there's about 3-4 positions just up ahead of him.
And got to think these restarts are where you really have to capitalize because everyone's so close together. There's not enough time for everyone to break away in the first 5 laps. So, hey, he's got to start making these moves right now and hope for another caution. He bunches right back up, gets new tires on it, try it all over again.
Right now he's trying to see if he can get around Jim Herrick in the 57. Is up ahead of them, Nick DeGroot. Trying to go to work on Oscar Gonzalez, and now as he's cleared the 11, he's on the back bumper there of Maliska III. I couldn't tell, but Matt Wagner in the 99 may have brushed the wall off of turn 4.
I'm looking. Jim Herrick also was one of those guys that I was kind of concerned because he got really close to that wall. A lot of these guys are starting to push that limit right there.
And we're starting to also see not as much room being given, especially down here into the heavy braking zone of turn 3 as Oscar Gonzalez crosses Nick DeGroot over again in the battle for 4th place. And the reason DeGroot is under fire because he had to check up for Robert Maliska III off turn 4 at the last lap. These type of racetracks with these type of cars, it's all about momentum as DeGroot nearly chopped the nose off of Matt Wagner off of turn 2.
Ooh, I don't know if I would have done that early. But you got to remember, a lot of these guys, hey, we're thinking DeGroot just spent how many laps, working his way up through the field, methodically passing cars, and hey, one little mistake can set you back 2-3 cars, and you got to do the whole process all over again.
One thing that we know, nobody in the field can make it on fuel, so there will be no miracle fuel strategy here if we go green from here to the finish. Charles Teed's going to have to come down pit road somewhere in the next 10 laps. Everybody else we're going to see on pit road somewhere in the next 20 to 25 laps when the fuel window would be open to be able to make it the rest of the way. And Oscar Gonzalez in that 11, you want to talk about a car with long run speed? He's been actually picking up spots here lap after lap. Was 6th a couple of laps ago, now up to 3rd, battling with Robert Maliska the 3rd, and he might actually have the fastest car in the field right now.
Yeah, man, I've been looking at how Meliska and Gonzalez have just been racing. I'd say Gonzalez has gotten a little bit braver, a little bit faster each lap I've seen him turn around. I mean, he continues to push the limit and just seeing if he can stay in front of these guys.
Oscar Gonzalez, 2 top 5s on the season. You touched on those as well. And he's been very good at the speedways here this season, finishing 1st and 2nd for the team of Nnscra Racing behind Pablo Francis, his teammate, back at, I believe it was the Texas Motor Speedway. And right now, looking to reel in Eric Shouse for the 2nd position. And this has been a driver, too, in the case of Oscar Gonzalez, who at one point earlier on in the season found himself outside the top 20 in points. So it just shows how consistent he's been at these speedways so far to climb his way now up into the top 15.
And Oscar just set the fastest lap of, well, pretty much of the last few laps here with a 27.094. I mean, he is coming.
That was close to almost being the fastest lap of the race, which right now, I believe, is being held by Eric Peterson with a 26.956. Nope, correction, it's actually Paul
Matt
Jennings
Wagner,
who has the fastest one with a 26.916.
Ah, I see I am still blind. But obviously, I've been telling you, Teed has to be sitting there like, man, every time I don't want a caution come out, caution comes out. The one time that I want a caution doesn't fall.
Well,
so
does he want a caution? I don't know. Does he really want a caution? Because right now, nobody's going to be able to make it on fuel. He's got the track position that he wants, and yes, he would have to come to pit road sooner than everybody else, but he'd be coming down a clean pit road, so he would be able to not have any distractions that could cause him to speed, and then who knows, with fresh tires, how much ground he could make up on everybody else when they would then have to come down pit road for their green flag pit stops.
Ah, true. But you got to think, hey, I'd rather pit with a lot of guys and just kind of keep myself at least up here in the pack. And obviously, if caution came out right now, everyone's going to be rolling down pit road.
Saw another driver have an issue off of the corner. That time it was turn 2, where pole sitter Alex Van Desant almost got up into the outside wall. Got very close to it.
I'm still seeing the battle go on between, it looks like Shouse and Gonzalez now.
And Gonzalez is making his passes on that outside line as well. And that would make me a little bit worried because we've seen how many drivers... Oh my
Teed.
goodness!
Oh no, Eric was not able to save it. He's in the infield.
Oh yeah, he went into the pit walls there, in between the 2 pit walls.
Ooh.
Was the 5 trying to pit?
Oh no. I also just saw on the front straightaway. Definitely sounds like Nick DeGroot isn't too pleased. When the caution came out, they went 4 wide on the front straightaway. Nick DeGroot looks like he banged side pods with another guy.
See if we can find out what happened here with Eric Shouse. As he and Jennings, Gonzalez, they were battling for 2nd. 5-car is losing momentum down this back straightaway, and I'm wondering if he was maybe trying to indicate he was coming to pit road. He was really slow there, Matt. I don't know. He might have actually been slowing to try and get onto pit lane.
I definitely didn't see anything in the driver's chat, but I could have missed something over the voice chat, so that could have been.
I mean, we're going to ride on board here real quickly with Eric Shouse just to kind of get an idea. Because another thing that could have possibly been was back when we saw that three-wide situation with old tires, fresh tires, and it was Jimmy Drynan who had to lift off the throttle. That might have been the case of what happened here with Charles Teed as well. On board with the 72. Look at the closing rate right there. He actually did make contact, got into the back bumper of Charles Teed, and oh man, the front wing just grabbed out that inside wall, and that's what flipped him up over the wall in between those two concrete barriers.
Man, the thing, all of these cars always have just a knack of landing in the worst possible spots.
And as you said, the caution had come out at this point in time. Here's the one of Nick DeGroot as they're coming back to the start-finish line, and I understand the frustration for DeGroot, but to be fair, Desant was there, and DeGroot made the choice to cut down to the inside on the 91 of Maliska the third, so I'm not really sure what the 317 could have done in that instance.
You just got to think, hey, I mean, these guys so wound up. Hey, a car just spun in front of them. You're focused on avoiding them. Hey, next thing you know, hey, you're 4 wide and you accidentally hit someone. Obviously, tensions are going to be a little bit high in those moments.
And speaking of tensions, every one of these drivers might be a little bit nervous here, as it looks like when we go back green, we will be very close to the vicinity where these drivers would be able to barely make it the rest of the way on fuel. All these drivers were just down pit road, and so if indeed the number that we were given, about 32 maximum laps under green flag conditions, if that is indeed the furthest these drivers can go, we are potentially going to be going back green with 32 laps to go. So under this pacing, no doubt about it, in big capital letters, save, save, save.
And remember, these guys cannot cut the engines off. If you cut the engines off and it does get low enough in RPM, it will not refire.
I'm almost wondering as well, just a little food for thought here, about Charles Teed and that moment he had over there in turns 3 and 4. When we were on board with Eric Shouse, I didn't really see it, but I have to wonder, he was close to the end of his fuel run, and we know that we've been told when you get down to about 6 gallons of fuel left in that car, the back end's going to get light. That could have also been a reason why he lost so much momentum going into that third corner. Might have been trying to gather the car up, feeling like it was going to spin out on him.
That's definitely possible. Obviously, that's just not a good scenario for anyone involved. But hey, it's a lot better than just sliding up into the wall and taking out the entire field, so I definitely can see why he slowed down.
Lucky dog driver, looks like it's going to be the 63 of A.J. Hobson. So 18 drivers will be on the lead lap when we go back green flag racing. Eric Shouse actually lost a lap there, having to get damage repaired on his 72 in 19th place. 3 laps down, Josh Garner. We do have more drivers back in the garage area now as well. Paul Jennings has made the hard left-hand turn behind the wall. Same for Jimmy Drynan. And we already know David Leclerc, Dylan Moskowitz, and Charles Johnson had made early exits from this one. Victor Santos is still out there, so he could pick up a spot and move up to 21st. Nicholas Winook, though, has sat on pit road for nearly the last 40 minutes, so it looks like more than likely, barring a miracle getting back out there in the final 30 laps of this race, he's going to be finishing in the 25th position here tonight.
That's definitely a heartbreak for him. Looking through the field, Craig Forsyth's another one of those, man, he just cannot catch a break, currently riding around at 17th. Obviously, he's going to try and take advantage of some of the cars that have been taken out in this race, slowly just trying to keep improving his position.
Yeah, you look at him and A.J. Hobson, both of them have run into issues, just not had the speed here tonight, and both finished in the top 5 here 1 year ago. Oscar Gonzalez is the race leader. He's trying to go for the Nnscra Racing sweep, as his teammate, of course, Pablo Francis, winning earlier on this season, and Gonzalez looking for his first win on the year. He's going to get us back under the green flag, and now the question is for these drivers, just how close are they on fuel? Did they save enough there under pacing? Or will we even get the answer to that question, because we may not be done with cautions in these final 30 laps?
I'm going to tell you, if I'm in front of someone and, hey, if I'm in the lead, if I'm out of fuel, you'll learn when I'm out.
And look at this, Maliska the third going to try the outside line trying to pin down Oscar Gonzalez. There's no way Gonzalez, I don't think, is going to come off the bottom. If Maliska the third is going to make this pass, he's going to have to do it high, wide, and handsome this entire run, because there is no way that he is going to be able to get to the inside of that 11 machine. That 11 is going to be in full block mode, not giving up that white line.
Yeah, and that comes a very dangerous game of pinching him down, and there's only so much you can pinch him down. Almost Gonzalez pushed up into Meliska there.
That's going to get worse as this run goes on. That right front tire for the driver on the inside line is going to get heated even more, especially down in 3 and 4. And so Maliska the third is going to have to walk a tightrope here. Obviously, he's going to want to stay to the side of the 11, try and get the side draft off of him through 3 and 4, but he's also want to give him enough room that if he has a problem, he's going to be able to recover and not sweep the both of them up.
Honestly, I'm looking at Robert here. If I was Robert, I'd be hanging right behind Gonzalez, at least until about the entry of 3. Try to fake him up high and then shoot down low and just crossover on him.
Now the driver's gone to the garage area. Josh Garner will finish 21st here tonight. That moves Victor Santos up to 20th. And look who's in the catbird seat right now. Yeah, he's going to actually get him. Wow, nice move there. Robert Maliska III looking for his league-leading 3rd win of the season, and he's clear to the point. Now you see Charles Teed putting the pressure on the 11. I think Teed was pretty comfortable just riding behind the side-by-side battle, but now that Maliska III has been able to clear the 11, he is in go mode, knowing he can't let the 91 get away.
Robert showed it was possible, and everyone said, hey, I want to come too.
Gonzalez not going to go away quietly. He tried to get to the right rear quarter panel of Maliska the third to draft back up, and Charles T, now it's looking like, I don't know if he's just over driving or if he's really having an issue with turn 3 entry. That's the 2nd straight lap that he has migrated almost up to the 3rd lane, and that time it cost him a position, putting the pole sitter Van Desant up to 3rd.
I'm wondering if Gonzalez is trying to figure out how Robert got such a great run on him and just trying to run different lines like he was, see if there's any extra grip up there.
Well, they are running different lines down the straightaways, about 5 different lines. How, look at that run there for Oscar Gonzalez. You saw it on board of that 11 machine as he's going to go back to the point, easily made the pass before they even got to turn 1.
Seeing Van Desant there. Man, all of these cars are just so close together, and it's almost like a chess match of, hey, I'm trying to figure out what lane is going to propel me forward. And, oh, Alex almost tagged the wall out of 4.
And then he almost had Matt Wagner into his back bumper because of that as well, and that could have been a big wreck towards the front of the field. Nick DeGroot's going to get around Charles Teed. That moves him into the 5th position right now of your top 6 in this lead group. 50% of them have been to victory lane this season for a total of 4 wins. The other 3 drivers are looking for their first win on the season. Right now, they run in 1st, 3rd, and no, correction, I'm sorry. Actually, 4 of the top 6 have won this season. The 2 that haven't won are running right now in 1st and 4th.
I'm looking here. This whole top 6, you can just tell a whole different attitude change here. They're seeing the pressure. We're seeing, hey, we've got almost 20 laps to go here. It's go time.
And as we mentioned, with the way that the point system works, if you're Robert Maliska III, obviously he's being aggressive. He wants to get that 3rd win on the season. He wants to open up his points gap. But if he makes a mistake and gets involved in a wreck, that's going to close that points gap up. So he's got to definitely be careful here, because he knows that the 11 car, who's currently coming into this race 13th in points, he has less to lose than Maliska does.
It's definitely risk versus reward. Right now, DeGroot's back in 5th. Now, obviously, there's no guarantee he's going to stay back there, but this would be a great point stay for him if he managed to pull out the win, and DeGroot's all the way back in 5th.
Wagner back there with Alex Van Desant, Nick DeGroot. They're all trying to, and I put this in quotes, work together to reel in the top 2, though that snaking down the front straightaway says Wagner doesn't want Desant and Nick DeGroot to get a run on him. And look at the 11 again, getting a nice run there out of turn 2. Trying to get to the right rear quarter panel, but it looks like turn 4 is where Oscar Gonzalez is just a little bit better in being able to get the run down the front straightaway.
Realistically, it looks like Oscar's just having trouble with breaking into 3. Almost exactly what you said. So this is really where it's asking yourself, hey, do I need to change up how I'm braking? Do I need to change up how I'm entering? Do I need to enter higher? Do I need to enter lower? This is kind of that experimentation that I was doing the first 80 laps. This is where it all comes into it now.
Right now, Meliska the third out in front. He's got about a car length and a half now between himself and Oscar Gonzalez. And Meliska has proved this season with his 2 wins. He can do it at the Speedway configuration, and he can do it at the road course configuration. His Speedway win was back at Texas. His road course win a week before at Road America. And we're going to another road course next week at COTA.
This battle for fourth almost turned 3 wide entering 3.
Dick DeGroot, top side. Wagner on the bottom, and that's Teed right there in the 5 right behind them.
And Teed's just looking, trying to see who the victor is going to be. I don't think Teed wants to stick at 3 wide, but, I mean, time's a ticking.
It'll be 18 laps to go this next time around. It's shaping up, if we were to remain green, to be a pretty good finish amongst maybe 6 drivers. It's kind of broken up into 2 packs of 3, though, with Maliska, Gonzalez, and Desant. Then you've got Wagner, DeGroot, and Teed, and behind them, trying to latch on to that second group of 3, you've got Covey Moore. He's trying to bring Eric Peterson along. And how about Gail Brooks and Jim Herrick? Great runs for the 71 and the 57.
Oh, AJ Musselman. We haven't even talked about him all day, and he's almost snaking his way into the top 10.
Musselman did not take part in, he did take part in last year's race here at Motegi. Finished in 19th, obviously running much better here this week as he currently trying to get up there inside of the top 10. And that battle up there for 4th place, that is, if a caution's going to come out, it's probably going to be somewhere in this vicinity because right now, DeGroot and Wagner, they have been on each other's quarter panels for the last 10 laps or so.
And here's almost the moment where you can see talent acknowledges talent. These guys wouldn't be racing this hard, this close to each other if they didn't have some kind of trust in one another of, hey, if I throw it in this deep on this guy, he's going to be able to hold it.
Couple of drivers here today that have been able to kind of take the adage, if life gives you lemons, make lemonade. That would be Charles Teed and Covey Moore. Both of these drivers were involved in early incidents today and had to use faster pairs after wild rides in the first 20 laps, and they've been able to work their way up into currently 6th and 7th position. Maliska the third has now opened the gap to almost a half second. You gotta wonder, is that 11 car lying in wait? Is he trying to save his stuff, or did he use up all of his stuff early in his attempt to hold off Maliska for the race lead?
Whatever the case may be, you gotta think Maliska's like, oh, please let this go green. Please let me finish.
Right now, he is turning the fastest laps on the track. And as soon as I say that, Matt Wagner actually was the fastest car that time around. I think that maybe getting the toe off the back of the 317 might have had something to do with that. But if indeed this is out of the speed that he has in that 99, does he have enough time here with 14 laps to go to cut down what's 1.7 seconds between himself and the 91, plus have 2 machines he'd have to pass in between that?
I just seen the difficulty here of passing. Definitely making your moves early, at least giving yourself as much time to fight. That's going to be the key here. Some of these guys back, I'm going to say even 4th, 5th, and 6th are just saying, hey, maybe just one more caution. Just get me back in the game.
Know that right now, these drivers should be good to make it the rest of the way on fuel if they were able to save enough under the last number of pacing laps. And for Robert Meliska III here today, it has been all about being out in front and having that clean air. That's when he has turned his best laps. But that time by, he and the 11 both turned the exact same lap time. Wagner and DeGroot back in 4th and 5th. They were the 2 fastest on the track, and they are starting to close in on this top 3.
And just looking back here, there's just small battles all over the track.
That time by again, Wagner was faster than the race leader, and Gonzalez was faster than the race leader Maliska. The gap, which was about half a second, has been closed up now to about 0.3. So maybe it was the 11 lying in wait, cooling his tires down, because it looks like he's getting ready to mount another charge as woo! The 91 rode awfully wide off of turn 4 that time.
Now you got to worry. This is when that mind games start playing in, and I'm going to tell you, if you've got that relative box up and you start seeing those numbers click down, it starts getting in your head of, uh-oh, what am I doing wrong? I mean, am I running this corner a little bit differently than I did the last few laps? And that's when your mind starts working, as you start psyching yourself out.
That's your first mental mistake, is if you're looking at your relative, because then you're forced to in your mind to try and do something different, and that's when the mistakes can happen, especially with the fact of trying to preserve those Firestones underneath you. There you see visibly the gap from first back to second. It equals out to about 3.5, maybe 4 car lengths, and Gonzalez continues to hound Robert Maliska III, but still, consistently, the fastest laps are going to 4th and 5th place Matt Wagner and Nick DeGroot. And I honestly think if Wagner can get into the draft of Van Desant, I think he might have enough time and enough speed to be able to get up here and work his way into the same vicinity as the 91, the race leader.
Seeing Covey Moore just slowly working his way up here, just shocking how far he's come. He's actually almost caught up to the back of Teed here.
Moore finished 3rd here 1 year ago, so obviously he very much so likes the configuration of Motegi, just didn't hit the luck streak here in the beginning stages of this race. So it's been a slow climb to recovery for the driver of the 15. Right now, for your entire top 5, there's about a half second separating each driver from the other. So there is enough space where you'd be able to get a tow, get the draft, the slipstream off the car in front of you, but I'm not certain who's lying in wait and who really has used up their stuff at this point in time.
At this moment, 5 laps to go. That's when you have to really start turning all of it on. If anything I've got left, I mean, hey, let me just hope, put it down. Let's see what we've got. Obviously,
all these drivers. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, obviously, we're still is at risk of a caution, but I mean, honestly, I think that kind of that window of saving your stuff for a green-white checkered, that's kind of went out the window.
And all of these drivers right now are on equal footing in terms of tires as wow, near contact there for the 6th position. Covey Moore trying to make the pass on Charles Teed. Teed nearly goes up and gets the wall off of turn 4. They'll take this battle now down to turn 1. I think the shorter way around the racetrack will prevail, move Covey Moore now up to P6.
Look at Gail Brooks. He's slowly coming to the picture here.
Brooks in that bright white and pink machine. Currently in the 8th position, looking for what would be the best finish of the season for that number 71. And Charles T, looks like that car, the handling continues to go away the longer this run goes on. He lost the spot just moments ago to Covey Moore. Now going to fall into the clutches of Gail Brooks. Up at the front, the best battle right now is going to be going on for 5th place. Covey Moore has reeled in the one of Nick DeGroot. I think DeGroot's got a problem because he dropped really quickly into this group of 3. Is
Maybe
he
he just got a little bit loose. He actually might be.
Oh boy,
So
he could be. His pace really backed down. He's down to the 28s, while everybody else in front of him been running the 27s.
So that may be a little bit of cause of alarm.
And he was...
Nick is coming in.
Oh my goodness.
Says he made a mistake. He made a mistake.
Nick
this opens
DeGroot,
the
the
door.
defending winner, will not defend his crown here at Motegi, as less than 2 laps away, Robert Maliska III going to come off of turn number 2. He's got 1.5 laps before he's going to claim his 3rd win of the season.
And you got to think this is a nightmare scenario for DeGroot. Maliska, hey, the main person he's trying to catch up to in points. He's leading. He's eventually less than 1 mile from a win. And, hey, he's coming off a pit road now. That's a bit of a concern.
Also on pit road was the 36 of Eric Peterson, so he must have made the same mistake as far as how much fuel he put in the car. Battle may be for 2nd, but it is going on nearly a 1.5 seconds behind Robert Maliska III. The 3 in his name might as well count for 3 wins on the season, because that's what he's about to pick up. He's going to win the CoveyMoore.com 180 at Motegi.
That was an
Gonzalez.
amazing hustle from Gonzalez.
He'll get 2nd. Desant will go pole to 3rd. Wagner will finish in 4th. And Covey Moore, who's got to get the comeback of the race, no doubt, he's going to finish out the evening in the top 5. And for Robert Maliska III, consistency just continues on, and the points gap will continue to grow heading into the 2nd road course stop of the season. Oh, by the way, he won the 1st road course stop earlier on this year back at Road America.
I'm going to tell you something, Seth. Nick DeGroot is going to be kicking himself for about the next week. over at Mistake.
Yeah. The thing of it is, too, we touched on this back during the midway portion of this race, how drivers that we saw do well here last season, how they were struggling this year, and you brought up the point, even to the position of the sun, it's not the same track. It's entirely different. I talked about De Groot, defending winner of this race, led 95 laps after qualifying second 1 year ago. Here this week, you saw him out in front for a couple of laps, really not up at the front as consistently as he was one season ago, and then that pit road mistake. It's just incredible how one entire season can change the outcome for a driver.
And you got to think about it, Seth. Originally coming into this race, those two were questioning, where do I stand in the season? Robert, hey man, he's coming off a little bit of a dry or kind of a cold spell here. I won the first 5 poles of the season. I had 2 wins, and I started to fall off these last few races. I mean, what's happening? And De Groot came in, hey, won Phoenix. Hey, I'm getting right back on it. I'm getting right back on hot streak. I'm going to make a kind of a run at the championship. And this reinforces those 2 points where Robert's like, hey, I still got it. We can make a late season run with this. And De Groot is, hey, I made a mistake. And he owned up to it.
Well, Maliska won 2 of the first 6 races in the first third of this season. We now entered into the second third of this season, and Maliska right back on top with his 3rd victory here today. Oscar Gonzalez, man, this guy, he keeps getting closer and closer to a victory. It's his 2nd runner-up finish on the season. Alex Van Desant, consistent all day, kind of faded back at the midway portion of this race, but then fought his way back up to 3rd. Wagner there in 4th. I believe this is going to move Wagner up to 2nd in the standings heading into COTA next week. And then Covey Moore, that comeback finish we talked about there in 5th. But how about some of these guys down here in the latter half of the top 10? Gail Brooks, best finish on the season of 6th. Charles Teed, another comeback driver after early issues. He gets 7th. Jim Herrick's going to bring it home with a top 10 run. I believe that is Herrick's 3rd top 10 on the season. AJ Musselman, he's going to bring it home in 9th, and Krista Nelson there in 10th. So, drivers that we really did not talk about really for the first 3 quarters of this race, like Herrick, Musselman, and Nelson, from out of nowhere, they're able to snipe top 10 finishes.
I'm going to tell you, I'm looking at the points here. Don't sleep on Wagner. Wagner's been slowly, he has 1 win, but he hasn't been very flashy about it. I said he's been slowly just collecting his points and kind of working his way up there.
And he's been very good at the speedways as well. The Achilles heel for him has to definitely be road courses. So we'll have to see if he'll be able to at least keep Maliska III within striking distance when we go to Circuit of the Americas next week. Of course, the driver that's going to take the big hit in the point standings this week will be the 24 of Victor Santos, finishing 4 laps down in the 20th position. He was 2nd in points, 42 points out coming in to this evening's event. But it's time to now head into the post-race wind down here and talk with some of our top 3 finishers. Let's see if we can get a word first with tonight's pole sitter and 3rd place finisher, Alex Van Desant. Hey Alex, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Gotcha.
And great run for you here tonight. Solid outing. Kept it up in the top 5 all race long. It was looking like in the latter portions of that final run that your car was really good on the long run. If you've been able to still be up there in the same vicinity as the 91-11, do you think you had something for them to try and go coast to coast, pole to win?
I think 1 more lap and I would have had Oscar. It was close. But it was terrifying at the end, though. There wasn't much tire wear as far as I could tell, but it's when the fuel burned down, the rear end got really, really light. So wanted to step out on you every corner.
You talk about not much tire wear. And one thing that we noticed was drivers, they would on old tires stay out. They were able to hold off the fresh tires. And drivers that would come down for fresh tires, it was very difficult for them to actually make forward progress through the field. So with that being said, how difficult was it then to accordingly plan out pit strategy on whether to come down pit road or not?
Yeah, there were some close calls, and the strategy was all jumbled up for most of the race. The last caution came at a good time because it was right at the start of the fuel window, so there was no reason for anybody to not pit. And then it went green. But in the middle of the race, I went to the back and then to the front again, and to the back, and it was a bit weird. But fuel didn't really play a role in this. It was mostly about tires.
Alex, I definitely saw a little bit of issues during passing, at least in a long green flag runs. Did you experience any of that?
Yeah, there were some really tight moments. I know Victor Santos had an issue below me, and something happened big. I saw cars flying in my rearview mirror. And then I think on the last caution, it felt like we were 4 wide. I couldn't really tell, but we were definitely 3 wide when the caution came out of 4. So it was tight, tough to pass. It drove like a bigger, faster gateway almost.
One thing that we also saw, Alex, off of turn 2 at one point, looked like you almost went up and brushed the outside wall. And we saw a lot of drivers struggle with that, the tightness coming off the corner, especially off of turn 4. It looked like if you were going to really make a pass on somebody, you had to go to that second groove. How nerve-wracking was it, hoping that that car was going to stick and not turn straight on you off the corner, hitting that outside wall?
Yeah, it was tough. I had it kind of figured out in practice, but once you have the dirty air of more cars in front of you, it's a whole new game. But yeah, the big strategy there was to get the high line and get a good run off of turn 4, so then you could get to the inside before turn 1, and then you're just going to be faster all the way around that corner.
Well, Alex, we've seen you be very consistent here at the start of the season. Coming into this race, you had 2 top 5s and 4 top 10s in the first 6 races and a solid outing of third here tonight. So I do believe this will move you up inside of the top 5 in the stands as well, heading into the Circuit of the Americas, second road course stop in the season. What's your confidence level going into that race?
Really excited. I really like that track. It's going to be really technical, lots of corners. So hopefully I have something for Robert this time.
He finished second at Road America, the first road course stop. Once again, congratulations on a great run here tonight. Alex, we're going to give you the opportunity now for some thank you sponsors and shout outs.
Yeah, big thanks to lmcgear.com sponsoring the team, as well as Happy Trails Chili Mix. It is soon to be available on Amazon, so you can check that out and get some delivered, just over the span of a couple days, which is pretty cool. So big thanks to them. Big thanks to my teammates, Craig, Jim, and Krista.
That's Alex Van Desant. He's going to bring it home third place here tonight in the CoveyMotor.com 180 at Twin Ring Motegi. We look forward to seeing you back there in the States as we'll get ready to go road car racing next week. But congrats on a great run there, Alex.
Thanks, guys.
Looks like we do not have our second place finisher, Oscar Gonzalez. So we're going to head right down to victory lane and we're going to talk with tonight's race winner. Third time this season, it's Robert Maliska III. Hey, Robert, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got us?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Man, it looked like track position and clean air was king here tonight. We've seen you hit a little bit of a skid after your back-to-back wins at Road America in Texas, but you finally get it back into victory lane right on the cusp of heading to another road course.
Mm-hmm.
So that's got to feel good to put this 91 back in victory circle.
Yeah, I came in today just thinking, hey, if I can get a top 5, maybe top 10, I'll be happy because I have little to no experience at Motegi. So to get a win into a road course where I know I can compete for a win, it feels great right now.
One thing that we end up talking with different drivers about, and they have varying answers to it, up here in the booth, we look at the statistics, we look at the points coming into each race, what the points gap is. Do you do that heading into a race, or do you just focus on the race itself? And if you do look at the points, at what portion of the season does it start to sink in that you have to kind of figure out where you are in the vicinity of others to try and manage your points gap that you currently hold?
Yeah, I mean, I know every race that, the guys that are in the top 5, top 10 in points, they're always going to be up front. So if I can just, really, it's just all about damage control. If someone wrecks, like Nick, I think ran out of fuel, like that's going to hurt him big time in the points. And, if you can just minimize those mistakes, just stay consistent, top 5, top 10, it's going to hard for anyone to really to gain ground on you, I think, this season.
So, Robert, I got to ask, during those closing laps, I saw you and Oscar just battling side by side. Were you worried he was going to come back in the last 30, 20 laps?
Yeah, so I think later in the run, about 10 laps after the run started, after every run, it was hard to pass the leader, it seemed, because the dirty air was just so bad. So I knew once I got by him that last time, I think it was like 10, 12 laps in, I just needed to keep breaking the draft so he couldn't maybe if I made a mistake, caught the apron a little bit, he couldn't get that run on me. So I had to give myself, a little room for error. But yeah, just breaking the draft every lap down the straights. Really, that's all I had to do to kind of lock in to win.
One thing I got to ask you here, Robert, we end up here in the driver chat during qualifying, and we saw you try and go out there and snipe a pole position there, trying to get your fifth pole of the season. Coming into this race, you had started no lower than second place. So was it a different sensation having to try to fight your way through all that traffic at the early portions of this one?
Yeah, I was talking to my teammate Dylan about it, and because I have no experience starting second, third on back, so I was asking him how it is, and he's like, just bide your time. So that's what I did that first lap. I got to the bottom 3 and 4, and they just started wrecking. And from that wreck, I think I gained like 11 spots that one lap. So after that, it was just, every few starts, every restart, just picking off 1, 2 at a time and worked the strategy, and worked into my favor.
Well, Robert, when you went back-to-back earlier on this season, it was at a road course with Road America, and then you followed up at a speedway with Texas. Well, you've got a win here at a speedway with COTA, the road course, coming up next week. So what do you think the odds are of being able to go back-to-back for the second time this season?
I haven't done a single lap at COTA, so I don't know. I know Alex is going to be out there and Matt's going to be out there, so I look to probably be battling them for the win. I know I'll probably have a top 5. If I can get a top 3, that'd be very good for me. But yeah, just got to run some laps there, see where I match up with these guys, and we'll see, I guess, next week, because I have no clue.
Well, you certainly got your mojo back there, Robert. Congrats on your third win of the season here tonight at Motegi. We're now going to give you the opportunity, some victory thank you, shout-outs, and sponsors.
Yeah, thanks to you guys for announcing. Thanks for Dylan, big time, for helping me throughout the race when he had his troubles, especially with him, that one stint where he was just the eyes in the sky for me, seeing, because I was close on fuel that one stint, and I was thinking about pitting a few laps earlier, but he said they were racing hard. So if it wasn't for him, I don't think I would have won this thing.
That's Robert Maliska III, and he gets his third win of the season here tonight in the CoveyMoore.com 180. Congratulations there, Robert. We look forward to seeing if maybe you can continue your league-leading win statistics next week at Circuit of the Americas. But for now, go enjoy that victory.
Yep. Thanks, boys. See ya.
So as we now enter into the second third of the season and we finish out this international race here in Japan, I mean, Matt, certainly the big story coming into this one for these drivers was the fact that with the low banking, these drivers were going to be having to battle the racetrack, maybe more so than each other. But I think if we learned anything, in the case of Matt Wagner when he got out in front, Nick DeGroot when he got out in front, even Charles Teed when he got out in front, and of course, Robert Maliska III, if you could get your car out there in clean air, you could pretty much control everything else that happened behind you.
Yeah, we saw with, I believe that was Eric Shouse, when he had old tires, once he got past, I mean, he dropped like a rock. So obviously that kind of factored into some of the tire controversy.
Now, we heard from Robert Maliska III after winning at Road America, he's not turned any laps at Circuit of the Americas. So for other drivers that we know ran well at Road America, of course, Alex Van Desant finished runner-up there. Craig Forsyth finished in third. Matt Wagner in fourth. And Covey Moore, who's been on a momentum streak, finishing in fifth. Do they maybe use that second road course stop as a place to pounce on this 91?
Definitely, I'd look to see for some of these guys who don't usually have that great of luck. Hey, let me focus towards this one race and see if I can make something happen. I'm going to tell you, one guy to be very happy to get back to a road course probably would be Forsyth here. Had a terrible, terrible race today.
Absolutely. Finishing down in the 19th position, and more than likely will lose a couple more spots in the standings. Might possibly drop outside of the top 10. The points are close enough for that to happen. We'll have to obviously wait and see about the fallout when we get to Circuit of the Americas next week. But a great one here tonight at Motegi. Robert Maliska III certainly seems to be making some early plans to try and hoist this championship trophy at the end of the year, but still a long ways to go. But a good one here tonight in Japan. Matt, appreciate you joining me in the booth.
Always happy to have.
Thanks to everybody that tuned in tonight. We hope you guys enjoyed our coverage. Again, next Wednesday night, the 24th of February at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the green flag will fly at the second road course stop of the season, Circuit of the Americas. For Matthew Rodriguez, I'm Seth Cole. Thanks for tuning into our coverage here tonight of Season 2 of the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. We'll see you guys next Wednesday night as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.